All right, Gavin, welcome to the podcast. I'm excited to have you here. How you doing?
I'm great. I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, and today we're going to talk about your first house hacking experience and how you kind of got the idea of it and how it went and where you're at right now. But before we get into that, let's do a little bit of background on you and who you are.
Yep. So I'm Gavin. I'm from Colorado Springs, born and raised here. Um, so currently, yeah, I'm living here now in Colorado Springs. I'm an optometrist, so I went to school in Arizona for that. Graduated in last year, and now I'm back in Colorado, just working at an office here. It's been great though.
Sweet. Um, how did you get started into real estate? Was this something that you heard it from family or listened to podcasts, or what was it specifically?
So initially, actually in school, which it's one of those things that people always say, like, oh, in school they never teach you anything about, financial literacy. But I actually had a class in my optometry school, and we played. There's a Rich Dad Poor Dad board game,
Oh,
so
really?
that's how I
That's
was
cool.
introduced. Yeah, we
Huh.
did that, and that kind of went over how having more assets than liabilities is what you want to do.
hmm
And then that just kind of intrigued me. So I got the actual Rich Dad Poor Dad book,
hmm
and with that, it did talk a lot about real estate. So I just researched that more, listened to different podcasts, and read different
hmm
books. So that's kind of how I got into it.
Yeah, sweet. That's how I
Hmm.
got started in real estate too, reading Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Yeah, I
So
think
good.
that's what I hear. It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's that book. So
It's a good like entry level for
hmm.
anyone that's looking to get
Oh yeah.
started.
Hmm.
And what was your experience like with the board game? I think is it
Uh,
called like cash flow board game or something
Yeah,
like that?
it's cash
Yeah.
flow. Honestly, board game. I mean, it felt kind of like Monopoly, I guess, but it's like actual
Yeah.
like things. Like oh, like there's one that had you have a car wash or something. It's like oh, like that kind of stuff where
hmm
it was more realistic, I guess, instead of like
hmm
these uh just these random places like Boardwalk and stuff. So
Yeah.
I guess pretty similar.
hmm
And it had you track some stuff more, but I think, of course, the main thing is that it just makes you think about these kind of things of being
hmm
financially uh, just aware of how to be get ahead financially in life. So
hmm Do you think you'll have your kids play that board game and read the Rich Dad Poor Dad?
I think that'd be good. Yeah, I mean, just
hmm
just different that or anything else, just ways to teach how to, where you want to have things that can don't take away from your wealth as much as possible, just so you don't set yourself up for failure later. So.
hmm Sweet.
Hmm.
And so you read Rich Dad Poor Dad. You're like, okay, real estate's what I'm going to do. How did
Hmm.
you think the best way to get started was going to be for you?
So, just from different like podcasts and everything I've listened to, house hacking is what I heard is the best way, just because it tends to be a little lower risk because you're living there. So it's just I guess with if you're living there, then there's more options. I guess you have
hmm
more flexible.
hmm
So when I was thinking about it, I was like, oh, there's like a bunch of different things I could do really. And then, you could do single family home, you could do multifamily. So I just thought it was the most flexible and the lowest risk as a way to get started. And I guess the financing thing that makes it way easier as well, because
hmm
it's only I think I paid like 3.5% down is the lowest with
hmm
the loan. Yeah. So
FHA. Yeah.
yeah, the FHA. Yeah. So uh, that was the way I started, just because I just graduated from optometry school. So I had saved some money up, but I wanted to have the lowest down payment possible in case, like
hmm
I had to do anything like rehab, any stuff like that. So that's the route I went.
hmm So you got a single family home in
Hmm.
the north part of Colorado Springs. What was your
Hmm.
goal with this property going into it?
So, I mean, the main thing when I was thinking about it was like, well, I definitely just want to get some property that I can live in to start.
hmm
I was like, well, no matter what, at least I'm not paying rent, just going nowhere with the
hmm
money. So that was the main thing. Um, but I was thinking, well, I hear a lot of people will get a property and then either a year or two down the line get another one. Um,
hmm
so that's what I was thinking of doing as well. But I
hmm
wanted to hold on to it for the long term.
Hmm.
Um, and then when I was talking to you and everything, I wanted to find a place where I could potentially have like two separate living areas. So,
Hmm.
um, and you helped me a lot with that because there's a lot of different properties out there, and um, you just have to look at certain things like how the layout is and all that to see if it's possible.
Hmm. So you have a single family home, and it's an
Hmm.
upper and a lower,
Yep.
and you had the option of getting roommates or possibly
Hmm.
splitting it off and having your own living space with your own little
Hmm.
kitchen, and then upstairs as well. How did you decide, like, you know what, I want to not have roommates per se, but have my own living space?
Yeah. So yeah, that's where I started off. Is I was like looking at everything and the different methods of, I guess, just ways I can rent it out. You know, like midterm rental, short term, or just renting out the upstairs, or roommates, of course. And I figure I'll start by trying, one of the more lucrative ways, just as a uh, starting point, and I could always change from there. Which that's another
Hmm.
thing about the house that's nice is I can kind of do whatever, and if it doesn't work, I can pivot. But um,
Hmm.
so yeah, I started off with the midterm and having the two separate living areas. I definitely needed because I mean, I guess I hear people who don't make it as private for for themselves, but
Hmm.
I wanted just a little privacy. I like to have my own area,
Hmm.
so that's what I was looking for, is at least some way I can make it where it's at least a locked door between um,
Yeah.
myself and the other people. So
Uh-huh. And this was a property that we saw on the MLS as well, so it
hmm
wasn't off market or anything. Do you think that was a little bit easier just searching on the MLS to find it than using any other like off market or going through a wholesaler or something like that?
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think with having you help me, that helped a lot because I mean, obviously, a lot more about what's going on around town and what works and what doesn't, and what prices are good. So
Hmm.
I mean, yeah, I mean MLS. I mean, I would definitely look on there sometimes just to see for fun,
Hmm.
but whenever you would send me a property, is more of one I would consider more just because you know you have the expertise. So
Yeah.
that is helpful to have someone who's an expert.
Thank you, so I appreciate it.
Yeah.
When I was always sending you stuff, we talked at the very beginning about what we were looking for and having a separate area and looking for something
Hmm.
that was split. So I think it was a good way to kind of help narrow down because there's tons of properties out there. Then it's
Yeah,
like,
right. You
oh,
got to
I could do
narrow it
this, I
down
could do
so you're
that,
not,
and
yeah, not
mhm.
looking at all of them, right? So,
And so, your vision, you talked about doing a midterm a little bit and possibly doing short
hmm
term. How did you decide between the two, and why definitely a furnished rental and not a long term rental at the start?
so I wanted to do midterm just because it seemed, and from what I hear, it's pretty much. I mean, the money you can make doing that is
Hmm.
almost similar, maybe to a short term, just with a lot less work, I guess. Or it's what I heard, and it's one of those things where you get a lot of the same result. What is it, like the 80-20 rule? I was like, oh, it seems kind of like that, where it's like, oh, maybe less work, or about a lot less work, but I get most of the results. So I
Hmm.
wanted to start there. Um,
Hmm.
so um, so I went that way, and just because with the you have to have the furnished place for either of those, midterm or short
Hmm.
term. That's why I went that route. So,
Hmm. And how did you find the furniture for this? Did you buy this online? Did you do Facebook
yeah.
Marketplace? What was the best strategy for that?
So kind of a mix. I got some of the nicest things actually on Facebook Marketplace. I got this
All right.
really nice
Mm-hmm.
dining room table
Mm-hmm.
for a solid wood one, and I don't know how much it'd probably be, like a couple grand if I got it new,
Mm-hmm.
but I got it for like $500, so
Okay.
pretty nice.
Sweet.
So
Mm-hmm.
for some of those items, I definitely recommend Facebook Marketplace. Um, and then, I mean, there's just some stuff. If I couldn't find out, just look online, like at one of
Mm-hmm.
those, what's it called? Like Wayfair, that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Um,
I've used Wayfair as
and
well.
yeah, and there's definitely some stuff. I mean, all the stuff I got is fine, but some was definitely nicer than
Mm-hmm.
others, I'll say. So, uh, I guess I try to look at reviews. I'm pretty good about anything I buy. Usually I try to review it pretty well, or I mean, look at the
Hmm.
reviews pretty well. Um,
Hmm.
and for the most part, that helped. But there's definitely some things I got. And I was like, I mean, I guess it's fine. But
Hmm.
so yeah, I mean, there's always the balance of how much it costs and
Hmm.
the quality. So
Yeah.
mhm.
And before you furnished it, you did a little bit of rehab to the
Yep.
property. What exactly was done, and was there any challenges along the way?
So when we got this house, it was thankfully, I mean, pretty much a lot of the um, finishes and everything were already pretty nice.
Hmm.
So it didn't take a lot of work inside. I did uh, with the kitchen, had the walled off, kind of the walled off kitchen, the two entrances, and the living room was right there. So
Hmm.
my cousin, who used to work in construction, he helped me basically turn the walls there into a bar top. So
Sweet.
that was probably the biggest thing, and I think it made a huge difference. And I know that like the kitchen and all that area, that's pretty are one
Hmm.
of the areas a lot of people look at, especially in the future if they look at the value of a house.
Yeah, because it
So
opened up a ton of space for that living room,
yeah,
and just the free flowing into the kitchen made it look incredible.
yeah, right, yeah. So that was the one thing. I mean, the main thing rehab wise. There's other little stuff, and in the yard, of course,
Hmm.
um, because when I moved in, it was just a bunch of dirt, basically. So
Hmm.
uh, just did a zero scape and with the just put a bunch of rocks and I planted
Hmm.
a couple trees. I did some turf and I did all that well with the help of friends, but I didn't have
Yeah.
a professional or anything, which I mean most of that's just really hard work. So if you it's not anything you have to be an expert to do,
Hmm.
really. So I any of that stuff where I'm like, well, I can do it or have my friends help me and it wasn't anything where
Hmm.
I'd think I would mess it up and have to redo it and end up spending more than what it would have been if I just hired a professional. Then I tried to do that myself.
Hmm. And so you put in a washer and dryer in the upstairs area, in like a closet,
Yes.
right? Is
hmm
it the closet in the bathroom as well?
It's right next to the it's right next to the bathroom, so the water and everything was already kind of right by there, which is
Hmm.
nice. Which that made
Yeah.
it possible, and I just got a very compact washer and dryer, and
Hmm.
thankfully it fit. You just got to make sure the measurements work. And then we
Hmm.
did a barn door there. Otherwise, I don't think a normal door would work there, but it
Oh,
also
okay.
looks nice. So,
Hmm.
um,
Hmm.
so yeah, I guess just knowing the layout is good, and knowing,
Hmm.
and you help me with that too. Is knowing that you have to put it kind of strategically where there's already hookups, so or just different things that make it easier and less costly
Hmm.
for a rehab.
Yeah.
So
Hmm. Water access seems to be the big one, because it's always like, oh, we
yeah,
want to put water jar here, a sink here. It's like, okay, but
hmm
now we have to get all that plumbing and cut through all these walls just to get to it. It makes it trickier, and the farther you have to go, the more costly it tends to be.
yes, exactly. So yeah, knowing how to do it more efficiently is very helpful and saves you in the long run.
Hmm. And then in the lower level, this is your own space, and you put a wall to separate, or is there a door right there at the bottom of the stairs?
So with it being a split level, I had kind of like a railing and everything. When you walk in the front door, you could either go up or down the stairs and to the each level. And it was open looking down into the lower area. And then that's
Hmm.
another thing my cousin helped me do is just put up a wall there,
Hmm.
and then put a door at the bottom so
Hmm.
that it basically made it, a separate living area upstairs and downstairs. Um, so yeah, looking for that kind of thing where it's cheap to do those kind of things. And thankfully it wasn't too bad. And obviously knowing people that can help you with that is also great.
Hmm. Yeah.
hmm
And I think the really cool part was we had to get creative for putting a kitchen space in the
Oh
lower
yeah,
level. And so there was like a mechanical room with a huge gap that was
yeah.
a perfect spot for a kitchenette. Was there any issues putting that in, or did it go smoothly? And the washer and dryer is in there too, right?
Yes, yes.
Hmm.
So yeah, it wasn't too bad. We just added in the cabinets. Um,
Hmm.
so we went to Home Depot, got some of those. Just
Hmm.
put in a sink from there. Um, and then, yeah, there's already water and electric outlets
Hmm.
in there. So it worked out, and I just elected to do where I have like a portable, cooktop, just things
Hmm.
that didn't have to run on really high voltage. So I didn't have
Yeah.
to put in another one of those outlets. And
Hmm.
just depending on who you are and if you like to cook or what you use for cooking, then,
Hmm.
for me, I mostly use like an Instant Pot and, uh, again, like a cooktop. So for me, it worked,
Hmm.
or in a microwave, of course. So,
Hmm.
just having a little kitchenette was good enough for me. So,
Hmm. Yeah. And how long total did this rehab take from when you bought it to when you finished it and was already getting it furnished?
so we got it in March, or was it the very end of March? I'm trying to remember now, but so it was like March-ish, and then I planned on being done in about May. Of course, I've never done it before, so I didn't know how
Yeah.
long it would actually take, and definitely took a little longer. But got a lot of the rehab done, I think, by May. But then I had to get all the furniture, all that stuff, get that
Hmm.
all sorted, and
Yeah.
then working all the time. It can be hard to get all that
Hmm.
done in a timely manner. If I didn't
Yeah.
have if I didn't work full time, then
Hmm.
I probably could have done it quicker. But yeah, I got it done. I think that was August, and then I set it up on Airbnb, Verbo, and I did Furnish Finder as well. So that's
Hmm.
when I think I first um, listed it. Was either, I think, at the end of August.
Hmm. And
Hmm.
this was mainly targeted for monthly rentals when you first
Yep.
started. And
Yep.
I remember you talking about one guest that you had, and how was that experience like with finding them and the cleaning afterwards and doing all
Yeah.
of it?
So I had the listing on, yeah, again, Airbnb, Verbo, Furnish Finder. Uh, so I think ideally I would have done Furnish Finder only, but Airbnb, Verbo, it's just how it's set up. I mean, I guess I feel like Furnish Finder, you can of course have a lease on any of them. I think you can upload a document.
Hmm.
Um, but I feel like on Furnish Finder is more, of course, typically it's more like professionals, like
Hmm.
nurses, that kind of stuff. Um, and then with Airbnb and Verbo, it just kind of, whoever wants to book it really.
Yeah.
Um, so, and I mean, you know, most people, you'd assume they wouldn't, do anything too crazy if it's on their Airbnb and Verbo. But because if they want to stay anywhere else, I mean, if you give them a bad review, I think it's hard for them to use that platform, I'm guessing.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, so I ended up having someone from Verbo, and one thing I didn't realize with Verbo, and I mean, every site's different, and I wanted to put in like just a way where I could review them first, and it didn't auto book, and I
Hmm.
didn't set that up properly. So
Oh, okay.
I didn't realize in Verbo, and I was like, oh, it's too late. I was like, oh, it'll be fine. But
Hmm.
so I had that guest, and so they had come here to stay for a month, and then move to a place in town here.
Hmm.
And they were just kind of here as like the stepping stone, and
Okay.
um, so they moved in, and everything was fine. They were there about a week, and then
Hmm.
they didn't come back for the
Oh,
rest of the
really?
month, which is
Huh.
weird. And then I mean, I was outside watering the plants, and I could see inside a little bit, and I could just see there's like food everywhere left out. And I was like,
Hmm.
they haven't been back, so because I mean, I live at the same place, and I let
Hmm.
them park in the garage,
Hmm.
um, so which was weird. And then I think they came back once, got some stuff, and then they never came back really from there.
Hmm.
Um, so they didn't like destroy anything, but
Hmm.
definitely was a mess inside.
Okay. Hmm.
So it wasn't the best first experience, but I mean,
Hmm.
it wasn't bad. It was, I guess, a good, anything is a good learning experience.
Hmm.
Um, so that's who I had. And, but after that, my brother and friends were, I used to live with them
Hmm.
basically when I after I graduated until I got the house I have now. And they were going to move out of the house we were renting before. And I just decided, well, I know them, and
Yeah.
I kind of missed having them around. And
Hmm.
I was kind of weighing like, oh, should I, continue this route or maybe just have roommates?
Mm-hmm.
And I just decided to pivot to having roommates at that time, and
Mm-hmm.
I've had them here since. And that was uh, in October they came in, and I've definitely
Mm-hmm.
enjoyed it more with doing roommates, at least
Mm-hmm.
in this case. So,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
mhm.
Sweet. So how much is like total rent collected versus your expenses that you have to pay? And is it lower than what you were paying for rent previously?
So let's see here. So I guess with the midterm rental before, it was uh, the total expenses I was paying for out of pocket. It was about, compared to the mortgage and then how much I made, it was
Mm-hmm.
about 600, where I
Mm-hmm. Okay.
it came out of pocket 600,
Okay.
which wasn't bad. That's
Yeah.
pretty in line with. So when I lived with my friends at the one house, it was very cheap because there's four of
Mm-hmm.
us in this one house, and they hadn't really raised the rent there too much, like
Mm-hmm.
since my brother and all them moved in.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a pretty good deal, but of course, I wanted to own my own house and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So with the midterm rental, it ended up being pretty similar. And
Mm-hmm.
then with my roommates in here and everything, um, I charged them 800, and then they pay the utilities and everything. So it
Mm-hmm.
ends up being about 2,800, I believe they pay, or
Mm-hmm.
2,600. I can't remember. One of those.
Mm-hmm.
Which it's ends up being about a grand with like the mortgage or the
Mm-hmm.
insurance, all that,
Yeah.
taxes. So it's more than before, but I mean
Mm-hmm.
overall, I wasn't paying a lot before, anyways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And this way, again, even when I'm paying, it's going towards the house. So, and
Mm-hmm.
then I'm just building, equity and everything. So even
Mm-hmm.
if it's not as, if I guess I'm losing a little more money compared to that, I think overall in the long run, it's better.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you would do differently for your next house hack that you end up getting?
So, I think next time I want to do a multi-family, I think for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a single family is great and everything, but I think that way, just having it already set up where you have the separate units, and then also having more than just one kind of separate area. It's if you have like a fourplex, you have three different
Mm-hmm.
places that you can potentially have rent from.
Mm-hmm.
So I think next time I'd probably go that route, and I think doing that would be better just in the fact that I think I'd be more comfortable doing, like a midterm or short term that way. And I think the laws are different as well for that.
Mm-hmm.
So, 'cause I think it works out better that way with short term, midterm rental. But I think I'll try midterm rental again.
Mm-hmm.
I think I just wanted to be with them, my roommates
Yeah.
and my brother and all them for now. Um, but that's definitely, I think, what I would do next time.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, I mean, I think everything went pretty well, and I didn't have too much issue.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it was a learning experience. So I've definitely learned a lot so far.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Hmm.
If anyone has any questions and wants to reach out to you, is there a best way for them to contact you?
Yes. So my email is gwaltersre@gmail.com. And yeah, just shoot me any questions you have, or um, if you want to be in contact at all. So.
Mm-hmm. Sweet. Awesome. So thanks for being on the show, Gavin. It was awesome. And I'm excited to see and get you back on once you get that second house hack as well.
Yes.
We'll talk about family and how it works out. But thank you
Yes.
again. Mhm.
Yeah. Thank you.